morning. We are up to Taf Kuf Zayin, Sif Dalet. Tanor Shenafel L'Seichu Mitiach Hatit. Tanurim, which that they used to, the way they used to do it used to be like some sort of well, or like a kedera, that used to have the fire in the bottom, and they would go ahead and stick the bread to the side. And I mean, if anyone's ever been to the Bukhara and Shuk in Yerushalayim, there's a guy who still does the old ancient way. He has like a little oven in the thing, and he makes a lafa, and he sticks it to the side of the oven, the side of the whatever it is, and takes it off. If everyone ever wants to see, an example of what the Tanurim in time of Chazal look like, that would be. Skip Gimel? I'll go back. Also, likach eitz v'bein eitzim. There it is. Lachos bo'eish b'toner d'havelei b'takimone. It's also to take a piece of a piece of wood, a stick out of the sticks, to go ahead and stoke the fire, because it's like b'takimone, because you're creating a kli. Now you're making it into a stoking, something to stoke with. Alright, so back to this. Now let's say that a piece of the tiach fell onto the side there, or something like that. Below greifa, now this piece it makes the oven not smooth. So therefore, this part's going to be hotter, so it's going to burn that section of the bread. Well, if it's not such a big deal and it's not going to burn the bread, it's also lagarfa. You can't scrape it off in Yom Tov. If they shmetalto l'shalatzorcha, there's muktzah. Don't worry about it. About mutter lahashki ha'esh ha'efer shebo kadeshi ha'chalak. You're allowed to. I don't know the exact mitzvahs here. I'm a little bit unsure, but you're allowed to play around with it with the fire and stuff, so it won't. If you could do that, it's better. Even though it really won't burn it, but you're allowed to try to play around with it so it won't burn it. If it's big enough that it's going to burn the bread, or even though without greifa, you could still do it. Just so you're going to have a burnt spot in the middle, because it's tzarech nefesh, and you'll be allowed to go ahead and scrape that off. The chashuv tiltul l'tzarech, it's called tiltul l'tzarech. V'dafka b'tanurim shelahem shemedapkim apas tzviva. They used to stick the bread to the side of the wall. V'ein tzrichim l'garfam. And the only thing you need to do, the greifa, was just you have to be sure there is no tiach, spots of tiach on the side of the walls, and then otherwise the thing runs smoothly, perfectly. Well, tanurim shalanu, our types of ovens, kivin sheyef that are basically have coals on the bottom, and you bake it on shelves or in pans or whatever it is. Even though since you can't, but to bake bread you have to take the coals out, otherwise it's going to be too hot and burn the bread. You can go ahead, if it is too hot, obviously, you're allowed to go ahead and shovel out the ashes and the gecholim. The afalpi shehu mechaba, even though it's mechaba, you're going to take the hot coals out; they're going to go out. I mean, you can't bake bread that way. And this is a klal, just like it's mutter to go ahead and do havara tzorech nefesh, kach mutter l'chabois tzorech nefesh. You're allowed to put out a fire if something's going to burn tzorech nefesh. We're going to get into it at a later point a little bit more. Well, the pratim we're going in a later simmons we're going to talk about it more. But this is the general klal that if the food's going to burn, you're allowed to do kibui tzorech nefesh. This is just like the dinner. You're allowed to go ahead and you're doing a barbecue, and you're allowed to go ahead and and stick the meat on top of the coal. Here you put it directly on top, or even let's say you put the meat on, nowadays you put it on a grill, it drips down, and it puts out the fire. Every drip, whatever, it's mutter. That's kibur, it's orach achila, v'chein nagu, and that's the minhag. If you have a brand new tanur, again we're talking about then they had out of cheres. Ein sachin of some b'shemen, you can't oil them. Although tashin of some matlis, nor can you wipe it down around inside with a rag. Well, mutar lahasikan, that strengthens it. That makes it like a finishing. It's like the finishing touch, like makva patish. Or mutar lahasikan, but you're allowed to light it up. Afil has a grishon. As long as you don't light it up, light it up, and then put cold water all around it, so that it seals it makes it strong and seals it up. Because that's also tikkun mana. That's also in husku yoser midai. If it got too hot, and you need to just cool off throw water on it to cool it down. Okay, la'afos behem mutter. That's okay, because then your korban is not to go ahead and to talk in the kli, and also it's anyway it's tzarech achila. Ahum husku yesem lefikach mutter lishvos b'mayim amachberes shemchavim ba'atanor. I guess if they have some sort of like little broom or something they used to clean out the coals with and stuff. The ash, and they move stuff around, you're allowed to stick it in water, even though there's like little bits of coals and stuff stuck to it. You're allowed to stick it in water to cool it down, even though it's that's when you stick it in before in order to go ahead and to cool down the oven or something. Not that afterwards, it's hot, stick it in water. That's not mutter. That's not the tzarech ochel. But if you need to, whatever the mitzvah is, you need to dip it in water in order to go ahead and to cool down the coals and push them around, whatever it is, that will be okay. Mutter lefois tanur male pas. You are allowed to bake a tanur full of bread. Even though you just need one loaf of bread, because having having a lot of bread makes the other bread cook better. I mean, I guess it spreads the heat out. Yeah. And that's talking about a small oven that you stick things to the side. Right. So that therefore the chom doesn't spread out because it's all covered. The walls are all covered with bread, and it cooks, it bakes nicer. Aval b'tanurim shalanu ein lafos yisri mashatzarich. Filling it up is not going to do better. The shavur does bring material, and you can bake a bunch of loaves. But that maybe you'll need them. But if it's just laharim, it's also because it doesn't make it better. It won't make the bread better. Fine. Mutter lista in piatanur. It's mutter to seal up the oven door. Betit verefesh. That's what used to do. That would seal the air out, so it would get hot and bake well. Shal sasanar. You're allowed to use tit and refesh, mud from the banks of a river. Hu shericho me'emesh. That's only if you went ahead and you took some mud. Also simim v'nitkol tzaracher. You went ahead and you took a big piece of mud, softened it up, or you made a simon on it, and you put it. You set it aside to be used. Lagabel tit b'yontav also, but to go ahead and to mix up tit, make it soft and yontav is also because this is not something it's not something which you need to do. You need to done on yontav. Something you could have done yesterday. That some say that if you're doing it in order that otherwise your oven won't work, So then in a chanami, that could be his mutter. If you didn't do it every Yom Tov, that's considered tzarech chochonefesh, tzarech havara. But if it's just like adds to it or whatever, it's what you do. So then then you can't use it. The mutter legabel efer listam piatona, but efer you're allowed to megabel, to make a paste of some sort. Tzarech chochonefesh. Because you can't, because the thing is with afer, if you use afer, it'll dry out. It doesn't hold dirt and mud will hold water, but afer dries out, and also doesn't. Also, one of the reasons,
it crumbles.
Right. Another reason why it's also gibul is also because of it's a marasai to binyan. People will think, oh, you're building something. So over here, be'efer it's not something people use for binyan. So both reasons it would be mutter. Taf kuf ches. Ein melavdin es avanim litzos by lefos aleim neisha mechasvim. You can't go ahead and toast whatever libum. Make a stones burning hot, so you can go ahead and use them to bake on. Because the libun makes it stronger. Some say it's only by chadashim, but the pashas Shulchan Aruch is that since it always makes, the more you burn it, the stronger the stone gets. So that it always makes it into a kli of tikkun. Ve'ein shomer es acheres, and you can't break. You can't break cheres. You can't break a big piece of cheres in order to bake on a piece, or to cut paper to the size to bake on paper. Let's say you have wax paper. If you want to cut it to a certain size, it still would be also to do that on Yom Tov. And you can't go ahead and shape a stick in order to use it as a skewer to roast on. You're allowed to go ahead and wrap. You want to crack some walnuts, so you want to wrap them in a handkerchief or something, and so that the shells don't go everywhere, and then you smash them. So that but maybe the sharp pieces of the shells will tear the cloth. That we're not choshish for, and it's not miskavin. It's not korea when aslit for. It's not miskavin. Therefore, it's okay. Shpud shenirtaf, a shipud which bent. I'm not talking about a metal skewer. Even though you could bend it back into shape with your hand, it's very easy. You can't. It's also to go ahead and to fix it on Yom Tov, because that is called it's makav hatish tikkun moneh. And that would be Aser. However, Hagav Dafka Shiachal Litzos below Tikkun. The Ramah adds in and says, wait a second, that's only if you can use it still. It's not that if but Afal Yimena Yachal Litzos Bo Kach V'Nishbar B'Yom Tov Muter L'Takno. Tikkun Kli is also on Yom Tov. Tikkun Moneh. However, if it's a Tzarech Chochonefesh and there's no way you can go ahead and you can cook unless you have this shipud, then you are allowed to go ahead and fix it. However, but maybe I shouldn't have said this halacha. The Ramah says not more came the Rabim. The shelo yivol attacking gam came benishbar erev Yom Tov. So they don't come to fix it on erev Yom Tov. Now this interesting din, it comes up a few different places. It comes up by Hilchos Shabbos by cutting the strings between the shoes and things, as the shoes are tied together. There's other places throughout. What it means is that if I'm giving a shir b'rabim on Hilchos Yom Tov, I should leave this halacha out because people come make mistakes. says if you're learning, which is what we're doing, you're going through Shulchan Aruch, B'Teras Lima, Seder, that's fine. But also the Yisra Amor in the Rabbi means if I'm giving a shir in shul, if I'm giving a drasha in shul, I should leave this bit out because people might get confused or, whatever. So therefore, if you talk going through Shulchan Aruch and you learn it, fine. But otherwise. I don't know, it's a Chiddush. Even Yechidim. It means, listen, so now there's a reason you see, learning Shulchan Aruch is Kedai, because halachas, which it's also for Rabbanim to say that these are like sodos for Rabbanim, no, and it's also to tell other people. So therefore, that's why learning Shulchan Aruch, is Kedai, because for this Chiddush that, over here, that you won't hear anywhere else. Anyway, who hadin l'chol machshirin shirin asosim erev yontav. Any hechsher, it's a big yisod. Any hechsher which is also which you can't do erev yontav, something which happened on Yom Tov or whatever it is, then you would be able to go ahead and to fix it on Yom Tov. I don't know if that means like let's say you. I don't know how far the list you have to ask a Rav. I don't know how far. If you have an electric oven and you have the oven on, and then the oven breaks, can you call someone in to go ahead and to a repairman to come and fix the oven in order for you to bake with? I don't know. Maybe. It's not avoid. It was Malacha Gemara, but Ma'anaf Kamina. I don't know. That's why Ein Morim came, because I don't know how far to take these things. But in economy, if you have no food and you have an electric oven, and the only way you have any other place. Obviously, if you have one other way to get around it, a neighbor, fine. But the only way to do it is to go inside and fix the wiring and to all these things or whatever. It's Orach Nefesh. It would be mutter, Malcham V'Tzchak, economy. But like you said, Amorim can, you have to ask a shar. Shipud Shirotzim Litzleis Boy. You have a skewer which you want to roast with. V'haya Orach Yosimidai, it's too long. Also the chatcha, you can't make it shorter. V'lo l'sarfa, you can't burn off the end. Ve'ema shchizin, it's a sakin, you can't sharpen the knife with the stone, with a knife sharpener that's miyuchad for sharpening the knife. Aval mecharada al gabe ha'etz, ocheres, or even, but you can sharpen it a bit with a piece of wood, or cheres, or a stone, or even to go and use another knife to sharpen it a bit. So number 2, this is the second place here. We don't say this to Ravin because it's not. This is also not halacha. You should speak it out because people get confused. Most people, what's the difference between this? Or people like, oh, Rabbi, what's the difference between this is stone? This is a stone. What are you telling me? Whatever. It's if you're learning, fine. This is the halacha, but you have to be careful about. Telling people because this halacha can be very confused easily.
Is this the only way you couldn't do it every yontif, or even if you could do it every yontif?
L'chara, if it was, if you couldn't, l'chara, if you couldn't do it every yontif, I would think. It seems to be obviously if you can't, it could be if there's no other way for you to eat without this knife, whatever, maybe there's a tzad heter, but Pashta says that, Pashta says it would be a problem. The Bedvar Memurim, that's only okay. That's only if you cut it, if you use it to cut. If it's too dull, you can't cut anything. And it's also to go ahead and sharpen it even with an eighth. This is a different din, even though it's ochel nefesh, but since on a mashchezes, it's so easy that you mamish need it, and you're going to come to do it on on the regular knife sharpener. Therefore, they offered it. But they sort of go ahead and to put oil in, or to do it do it in a funny way. That you can tell people to do, because it's done like a certain shinui. They won't come to do it. They'll know, like, to take two stones and rub it in between, something like that. They'll know not to go ahead and they won't think, okay, I can do it on my shul, because it's doing it b'shinui. Oifus shibamalam oisam batzar ubeitzim. If you have birds, chickens, turkeys, right, just past Thanksgiving, that you fill with basar and beitzim, mutter, the tafram b'yom tov, you're allowed to sew them closed on Yom Tov. Hushi yitakim erev Yom Tov achut. That's if you if you set up the string from erev Yom Tov, you semenu b'machan, and you have to put it in the machan already. As a gzeira, otherwise you might have to cut the chut to the size you want. And you should be careful not to cut the chut on Yom Tov, because again it's chaytech, and it's a problem. And the minig is to burn the chut, whatever's left over on the off after you use it. Whatever's left over, the minig, you can go ahead and burn the extra string, or even cut it. The Mishabura says burning or cutting, that's okay, because that's just extra. You're not trying to matakin it to a certain length or whatever. That's just burning the extra so that it won't get caught up in the oven. One more. You're allowed to go ahead and cut the rope, the string around, if chickens are tied together, or they're sewn together, whatever it is. You're allowed to burn these things so that the thing is open in order to get to these things, so you can go ahead and you can use it on Yom Tov.
Kind of like the packaging that you
get
in the store.
The question is also, would this apply to also regular packaging and things, whatever that is. I didn't look into it, and I'll look into it, and I'll bring it up. We'll stop here. I'll bring it up. I'll just look into it. But it seems like for Ochel Nefesh, Korea and Tefillah, there is definitely Heterim, but we'll go into it more. We'll say that.